I was used to picking up the phone, putting it down because I have 100 other things to do. When it comes to fee-for-service practice, it's quality over quantity all the time. And we have to learn and role play how to have those conversations within the office before we have them with the patient.
Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Raving Patients Podcast. And I want to thank the sponsors, both Dental Intelligence and the Doc Sites, for supporting this podcast, allowing me to come to your inbox every single Friday at 5 a.m. I appreciate their continued support, and I highly recommend you check out both of those companies. I also want to remind everyone about my event coming up in September 27th and 28th at the Scott Resort and Spa, called Supercharge Your Dental Practice. It is a 2-day boot camp on marketing and business. You're definitely going to be able to supercharge your practice afterwards. Go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com and use the code RAVING to save $100 on registration. I wanted to welcome Naiara Wireman to the Raving Patients Podcast. She has over 11 years of experience in dental offices. Her passion lies in delivering exceptional patient experiences and implementing effective internal marketing strategies. She focuses on creating comfortable and welcoming environment for patients, ensuring their satisfaction and building long-term relationships. In addition to her dental expertise, she is currently collaborating with luxury hospitality companies to develop a comprehensive guide for perfecting systems and processes that can be seamlessly incorporated into the healthcare setting. It allows her to bring a unique perspective to the dental industry, merging the principles of luxury hospitality with the highest standards of patient care. So please welcome to the Raving Patients Podcast, Naiara Wireman. Naiara, thank you so much for joining me today.
Of course. No, thank you. I'm so excited to be here.
So why don't you kind of expand on your bio a little bit, kind of explain to people your background, how you got into dentistry, and kind of what you're looking to do at this point.
Of course. So I started right off high school, actually. I started it to be a part-time job from college. I started at a big DSO, and I kind of loved it from there. I work in different types of dental offices. So I worked for very big corporations. And then I kind of saw myself trickle down to more private practice just because I was more free to explain and give that patient satisfaction experience that I really liked. For the past, I want to say 4 years or so, I've been really focusing on patient journey, patient satisfaction at fee-for-services office in different types of Florida, some on very affluent side, some on less affluent side, but still requiring that same level of satisfaction, patient satisfaction, excuse me. So it's been a really fun journey and kind of learning what we already know about patient satisfaction, but how it's changing through the years, especially after COVID.
No, and I agree with you 100% on that. So let's start off talking about the patient experience first. And there are some new ways. Look, I was all about patient experience. I wanted to wow the patients. I wanted them to want to come back to the office. I wanted them to refer their friends and family. That's why I got into the patient experience space on my end, a little different perspective because I handle their online reviews. But let's talk about some of those new ways to enhance the patient experience.
Yeah, well, that's kind of what got me thinking about patient experience too, is like what makes someone want to leave that like love note or that Google review? What is the factor? What triggered them to do that? What was like the one thing that we can implement on an everyday that makes that patient just rave about us as an office enough to want to go out of their way without even asking sometimes? So something we could do is just basically structuring a very firm patient journey, especially if you're a private practice, especially if you're fee for service. And what we're focusing on, I hear patient journey all the time, is a very popular subject in the industry. My thing with that is a system. We need systems within system to make that patient journey consistent. So basically, like, what does that journey look like? The patients that check in, it should be the same. They should be greeted the same every single time. If you have water bottles in your lobby, it should be the same every single time. They should be all facing the same. If you're more of a luxury or upscale dental practice, how do you present everything every single time within your practice? Building those systems, that way your employees understand what their job is and how to do it crystal clear is key. I always tell offices, McDonald's can make that same burger the same in every single part of the world. How do you make that patient experience look the same in every single visit that you have with the patient?
I agree with that 100%. I think that's a perfect example is McDonald's. Dental practices do dentistry, the majority of them. How do you make that patient experience even better so people not only want to come in, but that when they do come in, they want to refer their friends and family and stay in the practice because it becomes a cyclical event. And, somebody posted a question. Actually, it was Gary on Facebook yesterday. Which is more important, keeping your patients or attracting more new patients? And I said, and I responded that keeping new patients is more important because the cost is so much cheaper than acquiring all these new patients coming in. Yes, the lifeblood of a practice is a new patient to come to the practice, but you have to ensure that you're keeping the existing patients happy. Most people don't even know their attrition number. They don't know how many people are actually leaving out the back door. They're only concerned with the new patient numbers. You have to make sure that you keep the existing patients you have and prevent them from walking out. So you have to make the patient experience super duper impressive. What are some ways that a practice can do some unique things to really enhance that patient experience?
To me, and I'm speaking for all practices, on a lot of my experiences in fee-for-service. So seeing what your community is like. So I was part of an office, in a very interesting, very local, small community. So enhancing those parts of the community within your practice. So if they are very, dog friendly or anything like that, make sure that you are incorporating those into your practice to make sure that the community understands that you're part of them. You're supporting them too. Collaborate with locals in the area. We love to collaborate with restaurants or other providers like specialists if you're only general, and kind of seeing how you can basically support each other. But within the office, the one thing that I loved doing is sending new patient boxes. This was actually our second touch point with the patient. These new patient boxes would come with branded objects, so mugs or tumblers or anything like that. And we would have a handwritten note mailed to the patient and just thanking them for the time. And every single staff that saw them, so assistant, doctor, treatment coordinator would sign it and write a little love letter to the patient. That way they understood even after they walked out of the office, how important it was for them to be there.
The topic of the title of the podcast was, why the team is the biggest barrier at fee-for-service offices. So I want to jump into that. I want to make that the majority of what we're talking about here. So can you talk about that, why education mentality in the office is super important?
Absolutely. So again, I came from different types of offices. So once I got to the fee-for-service practice, at first I was very insurance driven. And I was very scared of having to have those conversations like, oh, we don't take your insurance or we're out of network. How do I even start talking about this on the phone with patients? I wasn't quite sure. And maybe my mentality or my belief system wasn't quite there yet until I understood what made the office unique. Why are we fee for service? So it kind of explaining, I'm saying this from a doctor's point of view, the doctor explaining to his staff or her staff why they're going at an network and why is it so important. Once my doctor told me and we had that conversation, I was all about it. I understood that to be able to set time, an hour for the hygiene visit, just a regular hygiene visit instead of 30 minutes, we needed to go fee for service. I knew that we cared more about spending that extra time with the patient than we did about the insurance reimbursement. So then I could speak on it. But so many team members, and I've trained them, and I've had to train kind of like the belief cycle over and over that the insurance is not helping the patient. I always tell team members, at the end of the day, who cares about that tooth more, the dental insurance or your doctor? And at the end of the day, it's the doctor who cares about the health of that tooth more than the insurance company. So trying to not saying talk down to insurance because it's still a coupon. It's still something that they could use, but talk up to your office. Explain how you're unique. Explain how it's a benefit to be here and how you can, maybe you do still submit to insurances, on behalf of the patient, but maybe they pay the patient. Explain that, be honest, but also add the unique factor. If your doctors take the time, like a whole hour for an exam and to do like a very detailed exam and everything, explain that to the caller because it's only going to add value to you. That's the thing about team members. And I can speak because I was a team member and I was a treatment coordinator. I wasn't used to doing. I was used to picking up the phone, putting it down because I have 100 other things to do. When it comes to fee-for-service practice, it's quality over quantity, like all the time. And we have to learn and role play how to have those conversations within the office before we have them with the patient.
Oh, I agree with you 100%. One of the other things I will add there is, we talk about, or I talk about the phone a lot. And I answered my own phone. I took phone skills very early in my career because I wanted to perfect that process. And I think a lot of times we put the least trained employee on the phone, and the phone is probably the most important thing in the practice. One of the things I highly recommend, you have to sell the practice on the phone. You have to tell people, you have to sound excited. You don't just want to say, oh, we just got another patient. Say, oh my God, you're going to love Dr. So-and-so. He does a great job. The team's amazing. Our office is brand new. It's amazing. You're going to love coming here. You have to sell it to the patients for them to come in, especially if you're out of network practice.
Oh, absolutely. I always told all the employees and even the offices, the sales cycle does not start whenever the patient walks out the door. The sales cycle starts in the website and most importantly, that phone call. That's whenever they know, like, do I trust you? Are you friendly? Like, what is this experience going to be? Just by perfecting that new patient phone call, it could even improve your no-show rate. Like if the patient's not going to show or last minute cancellation and just changing your verbiage, you could just improve that by just tweaking and not perfecting, but almost basically perfecting your new patient phone call, really taking the time to train your team and go over and role play your new patient phone call. So then that patient understands what the experience is already going to be like. And once they get there, now it's time to play and make sure that the experience is consistent to what that phone call was.
No, 100% agree with you. So obviously a big factor in having the employees talk up the office, getting them excited to present treatment, get treatment accepted and actually do the treatments and celebrate it afterwards. You have to make for a great employee experience because you want to keep them happy. So can you talk about some of the ways that you can increase or enhance the employee experience in the practice?
Of course. So for me, and I'm speaking in the employee's point of view because I was the employee, I didn't understand how to reciprocate the experience until I had the experience myself. My doctor could have told me a million times, like, I need you to do this. I need you to do that. The patient experience needs to be elevated. And I'm like, okay, yes, I'll make it elevated. But what is elevated to me might have not been elevated to my doctor. So I needed someone to show me that experience, that elevated experience, so then I can then reciprocate it to the patient. Because if I'm seeing it, I'm like, oh my gosh, I feel good. I feel important. I feel like I always want to stay at my job. Well, then the patient needs to feel that same way. They need to feel comfortable, trustworthy. They need to feel like they want to stay at this dental office, even if they're going to pay more at a fee-for-service practice. It's that same experience. It's that same feeling between employee to patient. But once your employee really understands the experience that you're trying to give because they are getting it all the time, it is so much easier to reciprocate that over to the patient. That way the patient also sees that it is a very different experience. And I always tell doctors and I always tell employees, elevated experience is a hot topic in the dental world right now. Elevated experience does not mean luxury and it does not mean Ritz-Carlton. An elevated experience is just something more that the patient is not used to. If the patient is used to writing the name in the clipboard and then having them call them whenever it's their time to go, and you're greeting them and you're offering them coffee or tea whenever you come back and you're making conversation, you're asking about their day, that experience is already elevated. You just have to be more personable.
Yeah, look, I want to create these raving patients. And, I did that in my own practice. And one of the ways we did that was I imagined every patient with a tattoo on their forehead that was MMFI. And that was, we make them feel important, make me feel important. Because when the patients felt important, that was the way you addressed them, the way you said goodbye to them, the way you handled the monetary part of it, the way they were walked through the office, how everybody says hello or goodbye to the patients. These are all things that they're simple things that you can do to make the patient feel important. And when they feel important, they will come back for more. And it's the same reason why I only fly American Airlines. Okay. Unless American doesn't fly somewhere, I fly American every single time because they roll out the red carpet and they make me feel important. I get letters on my seat welcoming me, thanking me for my executive platinum for all the miles I've flown. I get obviously extra benefits for flying, but I like that. Same way I use Marriott properties 90% of the time because they make me feel important. And I think that's what brings a loyal patient to the practice and has them raving about you to help you bring in more new patients.
Oh, 100%. People choose to ride first class because they like the experience. And once they ride in first class, now economy is not the same. It happened to me. I can't do that anymore because I'm like, okay, I experienced this and now I will pay more money for them to make me feel this way because they didn't make me feel that way in economy. It's the same thing with fee-for-services practice. People will pay more if you make them feel important. That is the main key. It's the insurance, as long as you know how to explain it and have your verbiage and add value to the office, that is not the biggest barrier. The biggest barrier is this experience different than an in-network office?
100% agree with you. So I want to switch gears. You started working for SMC, and SMC is a marketing agency run by Gary Bird. And let's talk about ways to market a fee-for-service practice, because I think that is a missing ingredient for some of these things. You can't just market that you're a dental practice. You have to market things that you do differently. You may have to do different things. I think one of the biggest ways to market is to get as many Google reviews as you can as a fee-for-service practice, because where do fee-for-service practice look for a dentist? They either ask a friend and they look that office up online, or they go to Google and ask Google, and you need to be there. So that's where reviews come in, because it is that social proof that you need to get people to actually want to take action on something, which is to make an appointment. So let's talk about some of your marketing ideas for fee-for-service offices.
Of course. And what I love about SMC is I've worked with other marketing agencies and not talking down to any because they're also unique and great. However, whenever I discovered SMC and especially whenever I started working, it was different because they're not helping you market your office. They're also helping you grow. So I'm part of the coaching department. So I get to listen to the phone calls, see how they're answering those new patient phone calls, see how their verbiage is like towards insurances. And for those added network or fee for service offices, I really look at how do they answer those difficult questions of, are you in network with my insurance? Or do you take, whatever, put the insurance's name right there. So whenever it's a whole team collaboration really at SMC. So some things we do mapping, which is basically looking at the area, where your office is at, and then kind of seeing, okay, well, this area is more, prominent for the type of patients that we want. So we're going to start digging from this area more. Or this area we might want to skip. Just looking at the map around you and seeing what's the house prices looking like, because the more the house is, probably the more income they have, right? So I thought that was very, very smart. And then as well as, again, coaching. Just coaching your whole team to know how to answer those questions. Every day, we're listening to these phone calls, and these are people who were very successful in offices where we were fee for service, where we were out of network, and we can all say we've done it and it worked. So to me, that's something huge that I didn't have whenever I started in the fee for service office. I wish somebody's like, well, tweak your verbiage and say this instead of this. And it would make the world of difference. We have lots of resources, internal marketing, things that you could do for referrals, Google reviews. We focus a lot of Google reviews because, of course, we know they are very, very important for visibility and reputation too. We do all kinds of, we're basically there to help you grow, not just market.
Do you have any unique ways that a practice can, or that SMC has done with a practice for a fee-for-service office to try to separate themselves from the competition outside of your traditional things that everybody does? Anything unique that you've seen in the short time you've been there?
I would say definitely coaching and internal marketing too. We also help with internal marketing and just having those one-on-one phone calls with the team. We've worked with outside vendors, even like call centers, to try to improve that the call center representative's verbiage as well, especially if it comes to fee-for-service marketing. So whenever we're talking about a growth factor, it's not just the office, it's also all the outside vendors too. So to take our time to really, to me, that was like the biggest thing that I was like, wow, like we are really helping them grow, like to take the time and coach that call center representative to take your office's phone calls and make it sound different and unique to your office. That's insane to me. And we'll send them, of course, like all the analytics, like here's your call conversion rate. Here's how many missed calls you have. How many times did you not answer the phone call and you couldn't, even have that conversation to begin with. And these are all your resources that we have to help you. We're making all kinds of training videos on how to answer the phone, how to do referrals. I just did one, is how to increase case acceptance. So there is like a plethora of tools that SMC can give their clients for basically growing their office, especially fee for service. I feel like in that aspect, it's the marketing company that they needed, that I needed whenever I was in a fee for service, because I didn't care about the clicks on my website as much as how many quality leads did I get, right?
Yeah, no. And I say this all the time. It's, the marketing company's job is to get you leads. The office has to be able to convert them, or the marketing company has done their job. The office hasn't. So there's a very big difference. And I talk about that a lot. I'm curious, you were talking about the ways that you can get patients to come into the practice. What is your feeling when it comes to call centers? Do you like personally, and this is the personal opinion I'm asking for here, do you like practices who use call centers, or do you prefer that the practice themselves handles the phone calls that they're going to get? Because that's a big barrier as well, as you don't handle the phone calls properly. So I'm curious your personal thoughts on that.
I think if you have the systems to where your staff is going to return that phone call within a few hours, I don't think a call center would be the right call. Because I rather, even though that patient is basically shopping, just calling them back like, hey, I saw you called. I'm so excited to help you. How can I help you today? And just even for the call back to sound different. Now, if you have a call volume that like your staff can't even answer and you can't hire any more staff, then I'd rather have a call center, a very reputable call center, or one that is okay and open to training. And we have a lot of suggestions over at SMC, and have that versus the phone not getting answered at all, or the phone call being answered or called back, the very next day. So if you're calling back the next day, that patient's gone. They forgot they even clicked on you. I mean, we want the phone answered right away, of course, but that's not going to happen every single time. I can tell you, I've been there. You're too busy. You're presenting treatment. So it kind of depends on the office, I would say. Ideally, have a good system in place to call them back pretty shortly. I would say if I was busy with like a new patient or a treatment plan and I knew I was about to just finish, I would just call back before I even listened to the voicemail. It's like, hey, I just saw a missed call. I wanted to call you back really quick. How can I help you? This is Naiara with XYZ Dentistry.
Got it. Okay. So Naiara, as we come to the end of the content, is there anything else that you wanted to make sure we covered or let the audience know about that we didn't cover yet?
Yeah. So if they want, so what we offer is a free marketing strategy call. We do the mapping for the office and stuff like that with SMC. So if anybody's interested, we'll be more than happy to have that marketing call. I know Christina, she's in sales. She's amazing at explaining. I've spent some time at DEO with her. But absolutely, if they want to come and join us or learn more about us, I would invite them to do so.
Okay, we'll get your contact information at the end. So we're going to switch gears right now. We're going to do the fun part of the podcast, which is our pod decks section, where I'm going to ask you some lightning round Q&A. The goal here, Naiara, is try to get through 8 to 10 of them. Fast answers, no long drawn out answers. Just give me the answer. We'll go on to the next one. So question number 1, what book have you read multiple times, or what is your favorite book?
I would say Be Our Guest. It's the Disney Experience book. I love it so much. It explains how Disney basically builds magical experiences.
Got it. Describe Mondays for you in one word.
Chaotic. Just getting caught up from the weekend or Friday or what I forgot to do Friday.
Do you have a favorite business podcast?
Well, I actually used to listen to both The Marketing Goat by Gary from SMC, the founder of SMC, and The Raving Patient before I even got to meet both of you guys. So I would say both of those.
That's great. I appreciate that. What do you think is your unique skill that has helped you become successful?
Connecting with patients.
Got it. Who would you love to collaborate with, and what would you love to collaborate on?
Ooh, that's a good one. Well, I know she was actually on your podcast recently, but Daniela Skeen, I love her. We see so eye to eye on patient experience and stuff like that. I would love to collaborate with her on something.
All right. Danny's great. So, do you make a to-do list every day, weekly, or when?
Oh, every day. I schedule my calendar to the minute. I have to.
Got it. How do you capture and keep track of ideas? Do you keep a notebook or voice memos? What do you use?
I actually use Canva. They have a brainstorm app, and I just put if I'm my ideas are overflowing, I just start typing there and then I come back to it later.
Got it. Let's see here. Let's see. Who has been your greatest inspiration?
I love Catherine Alderman, and Dr. Catherine Alderman. I love her positivity, and I love what she's doing in the industry.
That's good. That's good. She's come a long way. She lives not far from me here. So
I know.
What profession do you think is the most undervalued today?
I would say hospitality.
That's a good one. I hadn't heard that mentioned before on my podcast, so that's good. This is a tough one, so we'll see how you do on this one. If you had a magic stick, what are 3 things you would change in the world right now?
The way that people treat other people within businesses. So see the person before the money. I would change people's patience levels just to be more patient with people. And I would just change their mentality to be less surface level and more open-minded to what the future has to hold.
All right. Those are great answers. Last question, which I ask everybody. What is one subscription, either personal or business, that you could not live without?
I would say Canva. I use it every single day for everything.
When you mentioned Canva before, I figured that's what you were going to say. So Naiara, how can people find out more information? How can they reach out to you and find out more if they want to use SMC or even pick your brain about stuff? Of
course. So go to SMC website, smcnational.com. They can email me and I can get them in touch with Christina. Naiara, Naiara.Wireman, Wireman, at smcnational.com.
Great. Any final words, Naiara, before I end the podcast?
No, that is it. Thank you so much for having me.
You'll leave it to me. So guys, if you liked what Naiara had to say, please recommend the podcast, tell your friends about it, ask them to reach out to Gary and the team at SMC National, or you can message Naiara directly at Naiara.Wireman at smcnational.com. Again, if you liked it, please share it, review us, like us, help promote us. Tell your friends and colleagues about the podcast. That would be great. Remember my event, Supercharge Your Dental Practice, is in September 27th and 28th in Scottsdale, Arizona. Go to superchargeyourdentalpractice.com to learn more and save $100 on registration with the code RAVING, RAVING. And as I end every single one of my episodes, remember, your reputation matters. Thank you, Naiara, for joining me, and we'll talk to everyone soon.
Bye.